July 1st, 2026. 5 months from now, that's when the United States, Canada, and Mexico must decide whether to extend the most important trade agreement on the continent for another 16 years, or let it begin a slow death. Hit subscribe, because what happens in July will determine whether $2 trillion in annual trade continues flowing freely across North American borders, or whether Trump destroys the economic integration that took 30 years to build. The USMCA, the agreement that replaced NAFTA in 2020, has a built-in review mechanism. Every 6 years, all three countries must confirm they want to keep it. If they agree, it continues for 16 more years. If they don't, the agreement enters 10 years of annual reviews until it expires completely in 2036. Trump negotiated this review mechanism specifically. His team saw it as leverage, a way to force Canada and Mexico back to the table whenever he wanted concessions, and now he's using it. USTR Jamieson Greer told Congress in December the administration sees structural issues that require changes. Translation: Trump wants a renegotiation, not minor updates, major changes. Canada and Mexico initially expected routine adjustments, technical updates, maybe some tweaks to digital trade rules. That assumption is dead. Trump has already imposed 25% tariffs on both countries, calling them a threat to national security. He's threatened 100% tariffs on Canada if they make deals with China. He suggested replacing USMCA entirely with bilateral frameworks. The stakes are massive. USMCA governs $2 trillion in annual trade. That's goods and services flowing between the three countries every year. Since the agreement took effect in 2020, trade has surged 50%. Investment in new ventures increased 136%. North America became more competitive globally, especially against China. But Trump claims the deal failed. The United States trade deficit with Canada and Mexico hit $263 billion in 2025, up from $125 billion in 2020. Manufacturing lost over 576,000 jobs. Chinese companies exploited loopholes, expanding operations in Mexico by 288% to evade American tariffs. So what does Trump want changed? Greer outlined administration priorities to Congress. Automotive rules of origin need strengthening. Forced labor prohibitions need expanding. Digital trade rules need updating. And most importantly, restrictions on Chinese companies operating in North America. Canada has digital services laws that require Netflix, Spotify, and YouTube to invest in Canadian content and pay Canadian news publishers. Trump's team calls these discriminatory against American tech companies. They want them repealed. Canada's position: those laws protect Canadian culture, they're not negotiable. Mexico changed its competition laws in 2025, raising questions about compliance with USMCA obligations. The administration is watching closely. And both countries face pressure to align their China policies with Washington's approach, meaning impose the same restrictions on Chinese investment and trade that America imposes. Here's the critical detail most people miss. If the agreement isn't extended by July 1st, it doesn't immediately collapse. Instead, it enters annual reviews. Every year for 10 years, the three countries would have to confirm their commitment or the agreement expires in 2036. That creates a decade of uncertainty, and uncertainty kills investment. Companies won't build factories if they don't know whether tariff-free access will exist next year. American businesses understand this. Nearly 2,000 stakeholders submitted comments during the USTR consultation process. The overwhelming consensus: keep USMCA. The American Automotive Policy Council said the agreement accounts for tens of billions in annual savings. General Motors President Mark Roos said supply chains go through all three countries and the complexity is enormous. If USMCA collapses, integrated supply chains that keep American plants running fall apart. But Trump isn't listening to business. He's listening to his political instincts. And his instinct is that tariffs work better than trade agreements. That bilateral deals give him more leverage than multilateral ones. That he can force Mexico and Canada to accept whatever terms he demands because they need American markets more than America needs them. That calculation worked in his first term. But Mark Carney's Canada is different. Canada has been building alternatives. Trade deals with Europe. The China canola arrangement. Domestic procurement policies that keep $70 billion in Canadian hands. Critical minerals leverage. Energy security. The math has changed. If Trump pushes too hard in July, if he demands concessions Canada and Mexico can't accept, the risk isn't that they'll beg for a deal. The risk is they'll walk away. Start the 10-year countdown. Spend the next decade diversifying away from American markets, and in 2036, let USMCA expire entirely. Would that hurt Canada and Mexico? Absolutely. But it would devastate American industries, auto manufacturers, energy companies, agricultural exporters, tech firms. All of them built their operations assuming USMCA would continue. If it doesn't, they face permanent tariffs, broken supply chains, and lost markets. The clock is ticking, 5 months until July 1st, and nobody knows what Trump will actually demand when the three countries sit down for the review. Will he seek reasonable updates? Or will he blow up the agreement entirely to prove he's tough on trade? Subscribe because July 2026 will determine North America's economic future for decades. Share this with anyone who needs to understand what's really at stake. And comment with your prediction. Does USMCA survive, or does Trump destroy the most successful trade partnership in the hemisphere? Thanks for watching.